So good morning and welcome to everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I know you guys had a lot of options this morning, so I want to thank the folks that came here at this early session and those that we have remotely online. Thank you for coming. Here's the camera and good morning. For those who don't know me, my name is Escortina Urban and I am the Chief Equity Officer here at Joliet Junior College. I provide leadership over diversity, equity, and inclusion. So before we get started, let's talk a little bit about words. Words are very powerful. I think we'll all agree on that if we don't agree on anything else today, right? Words are very, very powerful. They can make you feel good, right? They can make you feel like real good, but they also can make you feel bad. They can make you feel real bad. They can make you sick at your stomach. They can depress you. They can cause stress and anxiety. So what we're going to talk about today is how important it is to be careful how we use our words. Because sometimes we're on that bad side of ourselves, either intentionally or unintentionally. By a show of hands, how many of us have always gotten it right? We've never insulted anyone. We've never said anything that was demeaning. We never did a microaggression. Raise your hand. Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. So we're all guilty of it, whether we mean it or not. And what we're going to talk about is how we can be more careful. And if we do make that mistake, how do we self-correct? So, and some examples of making folks feel real good. So I can say, hey, Amina, you did a great job on that presentation. It was well received. We got great assessments. She's smiling already, right? Because it makes her feel good. I've gotten this a lot. Your skin is beautiful. I don't know if it is or not, but I get that a lot and I smile every time. You have a beautiful smile. And I smile every time because it makes me feel good. But there can be situations where you don't feel good. For example, COVID got all of us, not all of us, but with the weight, some of us, right? Got me. So you're walking down the street and you've been trying to get your COVID weight off and you feel real good about yourself. You've lost 10 pounds and a stranger is walking right by you and they go, and you're all excited, like, what are they smiling about? And they look at your midsection and go, what is the baby do? And you're not pregnant. And you're just crushed because you've been working so hard with weight. You're in this little group encouraging each one. Somebody just told you look pregnant. And then when they see your face and your demeanor and how your heart just sunk, they apologize because they know that you're not pregnant just by the way your face looks. And they go, oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. But you look beautiful in that dress today. It didn't help because we're already insulted, right? So that's an example. There was a concert in Chicago, and there was a young individual that came to the concert, and they were in a wheelchair and having a good time of their life all by themselves, had their beer, listening to the music, dancing in a wheelchair. And then this couple came up and started conversation, just talking to them. And then they said, did you come here by yourself? And they were like, yeah. And then the couple was like, I could have never done that. You're so courageous. I wouldn't have had the nerves to do that. And that could make that person feel good or it can make them feel bad. A lot of times people that have disabilities, they just want to be treated like regular people. Now, would we have said that to anyone else standing around us? No. So the individual say, you're saying that to me because I'm in a wheelchair. Well, these are my legs. So just ignore them like you ignore everyone else's legs and treat me like you're treating everyone else. Correct? So those are some examples of how our words can be powerful, how they can make you feel good, and how they can make you feel bad. So let's jump into inclusive language. And this is where you guys can participate. Anybody, what do you mean? How do we define inclusive language? Online too, you can come off from mute and jump in too. Yes?
I would like to say it is words. It's a conscious thought of using words that includes everybody in that space to be a part of the conversation.
Correct. For those online, our participants said there's words that's meant to include everyone in that space. Great example. And we have up here all gender restrooms, which we have our first historical all gender restroom right here on campus. And I won't say we're the only community college, but we're the only one I know about that has an all gender multi-stall restroom. So I'm excited about that. And the term all gender means anybody can use that restroom. No matter what category you fall in, you're included in that restroom. So that's a term of being inclusive, right? So I'll give another example. So we were debating on using all gender, putting a lady with a dress, a man with pants, and then a figure with half dress, half pants. And if you look at those three, you might say, I'm still not included in that, right? I don't fall in any of those pictures, but all gender term you do. That's intended to include everyone. And look at the word students. So when I grew up, and I'm a boomer, I'm old, the teacher would come in the room and say, good morning, boys and girls. And that was perfectly acceptable, but it's no longer perfectly acceptable. So we have to say, good morning, what? Everybody. Students. Class. What else?
Wonderful people.
Wonderful people. Friends. Exactly. And those terms include everyone. So for those that grew up referring to boys and girls, it's a little harder. So give yourself grace, but we have to constantly try to think about that. I'm guilty too. So I'll come in the office, and if Hector's not there, I'll say, good morning, ladies. And I'm like, they might not all identify as ladies, whether you know it or not. So I have to say, good morning, everyone. Good morning, how are you doing? You know, and we have to be conscious of that. It's a constant reminder. Now, our younger generation, they kind of grew up in this, so it comes more naturally off their tongues. So give yourself grace if you mess up sometimes, because we will mess up. And then we talked about everyone and you all. Now, this is just another definition, and you were absolutely right. But it's like when we think about language too, let's not just think about the words that come out of our mouth, but also the words we write, things we display on our clothes, your facial response when someone says something. Those all communicate and can be a form of nonverbal language. So it's art, how we speak, our physical, our eye contact, what we say, all can fall under inclusive language. So when you're getting it right, when you're perfect, you don't say or do anything that's biased, that's considered discriminatory, a microaggression, insulting people's gender or sex. You get it right, but we're never gonna all get it right because we're an imperfect society and we're imperfect human beings. We're never gonna get it 100% right, but we can try, right? Now this is one I really like, intent versus impact. So we talked about how you intended to do something really nice, but the way it lands with the other person isn't very nice. And I'll give this example. I have a new employee and they started and they bought a new outfit for the first day. And during the interview, they talked about how they love Starbucks. So when they came in the first day, I had a nice hot cup of Starbucks. So I walk over to them to give it to them. And just as I get to them, I trip. And it goes all over them. And it's hot. They're pissed. They even report me to my manager. So my intent, I weighed in, I paid my money, I brought it to them. My intent was good, but my impact was not. So which one was more important? What I intended to do or how it actually landed? How many say intended? How many say how it actually landed? Trick question. How many say both? Everybody. You're right. We're responsible for our intent and our impact. Now, it's not to blame you. We're in a no blame zone because I didn't intend to do anything wrong. I tripped. It's nothing I could have done to prevent that trip because I didn't know I was going to trip, right? So it's a no blame zone, but I have to own that. I burnt somebody. I got their clothes messed up. The first day of work, it wasn't good. So I have to take ownership of that and try to self-correct that. And you can repair it. But our intent and our impact, sometimes we don't know what the impact will be because people won't say anything, but sometimes they do. And what do we do when people tell us that we insulted them or we offended them or that was a microaggression? What do we do as humans? Be honest. Huh?
Defensive.
Do what?
Get defensive.
Defensive. If we're honest, we get defensive. And it shows in our face, in our eyes. You're just too sensitive. That's not what I meant. That's not what I said. We get defensive. That's the natural response. And this is, are we responsible for, we're responsible for our intent as well as our impact. And what do we do when our intentions are contrary to the impact? So how do we fix it, guys?
Apologize.
You can apologize, show empathy, and don't get defensive and try to protect yourself because you weren't the one hurt, the other person was hurt. And it doesn't mean that you didn't do anything wrong, especially if it was unintended. You made a mistake and you can correct that mistake, right? One example would be you have a party at your house and you invite a new employee. And that employee, you have been talking with a little bit at work, but haven't really gotten to know them and you want them to feel included. So you'll have family and friends there, you'll have some coworkers there. And this employee presents his meal and you go, I'm having a cookout, come to my house this Saturday and you're welcome to bring your wife. And all of a sudden the guy's face just goes blank, he's quiet, and the coworker instantly notices they did something wrong. And they go, what? You know, and then he shares, well, I don't have a wife, I have a husband. We have to fix that, right? We have to correct it. You didn't do anything wrong, you just made an assumption. But what can we do to avoid doing that again? Anybody? Yes?
Don't leave our assumptions.
Mm-hmm.
Or use the inclusive language. Your partner's home.
Yes.
Spouse.
Use that inclusive language, and it's hard if you're not used to it. So your partner is welcome, your significant other is welcome. You can bring someone with you, inclusive language, and then you can avoid stepping into that. Because honestly, some people share with us and some people do not. So you don't even know, right? And our intent is personal to us, but the impact is not. We can't control how that person receives what we say or what we do. We can't control it. So don't expect when you say something nice that it'll always be received the way you thought. And we can't control other people, but we can control ourselves. And I try to do that a lot because I get insulted. Over the years, I've been insulted so much, especially at work. And no matter how much DEI I do, I'm going to still get it. I was recently asked if I had gone to Africa or something. They were talking about internships in Africa and was like, was you there? Why would I be in Africa? You put me in Africa, I'm lost. I don't even know where to go. So it constantly happens. I had a shirt that says, my ancestors' wildest dreams come true. And I just got insulted about that. So it's going to happen over and over again. So what I do is I don't expect perfection and I expect insults, which is terrible that we have to expect that we're going to get insulted. But you got to figure out, how do you protect your heart? So you be ready to respond with something respectful and educational to counter that. Because now you feel like, I protected myself, I spoke up for myself. And I might have gave a learning experience to the individual that said it, right? And we talked about both are important, intent and. So just to leave you with this, intent versus impact. Remember that what we say may not be always received the way it was intended. And when we do mess up, we have to be empathetic. We have to say to the lady that wasn't pregnant, I should have known better. I should not have made that assumption. I know how I would feel if that was me. Please accept my apology. You owned it, right? I paid for her suit. She didn't really get coffee, but I paid for her suit to be cleaned. When my manager calls me in, I own up to it. And I go and sincerely apologize. I mean, at the interview, you talked about Starbucks the entire time. So I wanted your first day to be special. And I wanted to bring you your first coffee that you ever would have here at JJC. And I wanted it to come from me. I am so sorry, and I own that. And I'm gonna get your clothes clean, and I'm gonna give you a gift card so you can go get your coffee. And I fixed it, right? Yeah. I fixed it. You can't go, you had your foot out of your bag, wasn't in the way I wanted. That's what we do. If we're honest, that's what we do. We look for excuses to justify our action, and we won't own it. But we own it. Even though we really didn't do anything wrong, what we did, our behavior or our statements impacted someone in a bad way. Now we're going to go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So in his hierarchy of needs, he actually uses, if you study it, he uses words like psychological safety, belonging, inclusion. Because as humans, all of us, these are basic human needs that we need, whether we admit it or not. So we come here all day, every day, and we want to feel good while we're here. You want to be happy about your department. You want to be happy about the work you do. And I'm hoping I'm correct, but I believe my department feels that way. We feel good about each other. We feel included. We feel like we belong. We support each other. And it's a good feeling. Some of us, we have some flexibility, but sometimes we prefer to just be here. We are supported by employees and stakeholders that help us with the work. So it's rewarding. We get that psychological safety here. And when you do, you're happier, you're healthier, and that basic need is being met. And who is responsible for creating this psychological safety or belonging? We are, all of us, we are. Because if a person doesn't, it's because somebody or some group or some behavior is making them feel not included, not safe. Now, Amina's going to help with the next part of our presentation. So pull out your phones and scan the QR code, and I'm going to pass it over to Amina.
Thank you, Dr. Irvin. Okay, so let's see. So we should be queuing this up here. And then I will also drop in the chat the link for those of you online. Just give me one moment.
Amina is giving us a message that the quiz is not open.
Okay, just 1 second. Anthony's gonna get us. Okay. All right. Alrighty, so try this. So go ahead and scan that, and then for those of you online, I'll drop the link as well. All right, so let's see. Just give me a thumbs up. Is everyone able to get on? Okay, I see all the hearts coming through. Okay. All right. Do we know how many people are online?
22.
22, okay. All right, everyone in person, everyone's in? Okay. And then everyone online, I hope you can get on in there. It should say 19, okay. All right, let's get started. Okay. Okay, are we still doing okay?
Go ahead and try to refresh and get it down.
Yeah.
It should fix
What do we
it.
do? It's coming through. No, it's.
Is everyone on, or do I need to go back? Okay, I'll go back.
We can go back and try it again.
Yep.
Try it
Go
again.
ahead and refresh your page if you're having any trouble with it.
It keeps moving on too fast.
Yes.
Okay, try and rescan it, and then we'll start it again. I see we have like 23, 24, okay.
It's one of those technology moments.
And Drea in the chat said go to menti.com and enter the code. So try that. So once you scan it, it should put you in a waiting room. Are we good in here? Yes? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I'm gonna move on. Okay.
This is the adult version of Cahoots.
I didn't get to vote in time because it just went so fast.
Uh-oh, go ahead and refresh the page at the top left,
Okay.
and that should work.
Read as fast as you. I just.
Okay.
First sentence.
I know what I need to do. Exit out of here.
And then it's like, too late.
One moment, please. Okay, let's try this again.
I think the first question is probably gonna be a hiccup.
I reset it, so, okay. So is everybody in there, or do we have to get back in? Okay, you're good over here. Are we good? Okay. All right, it is gonna go kind of fast. I think it's like 15 seconds, so. Okay. Yeah, okay. All right. Are we good? Okay, it should be popping up any moment. So the question says, I am not homophobic, my best friend is gay. Is this inclusive? All right, so we have 35 votes that said, no, this is not inclusive, and then 2 that said, yes, this is inclusive. Anybody want to share why this may not be inclusive? So the correct answer is no. So when we think about this question, I'm not homophobic, my best friend is gay. This is essentially applying that, I have gay friends, or I'm not excluding this, or I'm not making the perception that I'm not accepting of those who may identify as another gender or sexuality. And so that is the intention behind this question. So it's not necessarily inclusive to say that, but to say, oh, my friend is gay, or my friend is this means that I'm not homophobic, but rather to show that you don't want to imply any biases or any intentionality that would discriminate against this group of people.
And another thing, just to add what Tamina said, is it can offend someone who may be gay in the room when you say, I'm not gay because my friend is gay. So you don't want to be offensive, because if someone's talking to you, say you're Hispanic, and they go, oh, I'm not discriminating, I don't discriminate against Hispanics because my husband's Hispanic. You just insulted that person, because why would you have to call out my race, period? You know, so it can be offensive, and it happens a lot. It happens a lot even today. So you could be offending the person of that community, and you can have a spouse, a child, a best friend of a particular community and still be, you know, not totally in line with those values and beliefs, if we're honest with ourselves. So that statement helps us justify feeling that we aren't, but by that mere statement, people will imply that you are. It will be intended to be one way that you're not, but the receiver is gonna say, oh, you are, because you wouldn't have said that. You wouldn't even have to say that if you weren't. So some people don't know that. So just kind of aware, because people probably are never gonna tell you that, oh, you just told me that you are. So in the heads go, you are. So think about that the next time it's said.
And the questions as we go through are to help kind of draw just awareness to what we're saying. You know, sometimes we will say things and we're just not sure that, you know, this is not inclusive. So they're not to make anyone feel bad, and we don't know who's picking what. So it's a learning opportunity for us all. But I'm going to go ahead and cue up the next one. Which option is more inclusive? You have I don't see color, I love everyone, and then you have I value people for them and respect their identity. All right, so majorities chose I value people for them and respect their identity, which is correct. That would be the more inclusive option. Saying that I don't see color, I love everyone may sound as though you respect everyone no matter what they look like or how they present themselves. However, it can be impactful as you are diminishing one's identity. So saying you don't see someone for their race or see someone for their ethnicity, you know, devalues their identity as a person. So saying that you value people for who they are, regardless of their identity, regardless of how they present themselves, is being more inclusive as opposed to saying I don't see color, or I'm colorblind, or color doesn't matter to me. But it matters to the person, to that person, right? So that is the intention behind this question.
And often people say, if you don't see color, people of color will say, if you don't see color, you don't see me, because I'm colored. And people don't know that. You're intending to say something good, something that will make a person feel good, but you're doing the totally opposite. And I think every person in color in this room would say, if someone says that, they don't see me, because people are proud of who they are, their community. So just a lesson learned for all of us, because I've heard that, and it's not, and I know in my heart it's not intended to make people feel bad, but it does. If you don't see color, you don't see that person.
All right, next one. Remember, no swearing. We have women in the room. Is this inclusive? All right, it looks like everyone, the majority voted. So obviously we're, you know, when you think about that question, it's just like, especially if you're, you know, a woman or a lady in the room, This implies that, women are maybe more sensitive. You kind of want to watch your language. That general stereotype of like, oh, women don't curse, they don't say bad words or anything. And I think I read something where women are actually more likely or higher percent than men to curse and say whatever. So just because you're a lady or a woman, that doesn't mean, that you don't come off, like my mom's a little rough around the edges or say something, everyone is going to say what they're going to say. And so, yeah, that just goes to imply.
And it
Yes.
also infers that it would be, what's the word? Use profanity, vulgar.
Yes, vulgar, profanity. Yes, absolutely. So, great job. This one, can I touch your hair? Is this your real hair? Is this inclusive? Okay, everybody again. So yes, this is not inclusive. This question, talks about, people's hair, people's body. I mean, even just in general, when I initially read this question, it's like, why would someone want to act? It's just kind of, it's a little cringe. But this implies that you're a little insensitive to people's, whether their hair is more on the ethnic side, or it's super long, or it's short, or it's a different style, whatever it is, it's insensitive, and it's just not okay. Yeah, that's about all I can say with that one. Thank you all for your dedication and support. Is this inclusive? Wonderful. And just like Dr. Urban was saying earlier, using terms such as you all or everyone, embodies everybody. So it's not excluding anyone, and it's encompassing the whole room regardless of who is there. So, okay. Which option is least inclusive? You have, you guys, let's stay focused on the task, and then let's all stay focused on the task. Which option is least inclusive? So this one's a good one because I know that I say it a lot. We say it a lot in the office, like, hey, you guys, come on. Or so you guys implies, okay, a gender, guys, men, boys, whatever, it implies a gender, and it's specifying a specific group, so to say, even though your intention may not be towards that, especially if you're talking to a group of your girlfriends or close, relatives, and you say like, hey guys, come on, or you're talking to your team, you don't intend to do that. However, it's not necessarily inclusive. Saying let's all, or you all, or everyone, let's focus on the task, as opposed to saying you guys. So.
And guys used to be fine, just like I said, good morning, boys and girls. It used to be fine, but it's no longer fine as we celebrate our diversity. When you say guys, some people think automatically gender now, where before they didn't. So like me, grew up saying you guys, so it's a conscious effort, and my team tell me all the time, you said you guys can. So I have to consciously stop and try not to do that. But when you've been doing it for 30, 40 years, you gotta unlearn that language and use words that are more inclusive. Now, a safe word to use is they, but it sounds weird, right? Because it's a plural pronoun. Some people say, when you say, how can I call her they, when that's one person? Well, our English hasn't really caught up and gave us a single pronoun to identify an all-inclusive group. So our writers and poets, they've created this term they, so that's the most inclusive. And that even as we rewrite our policies and procedures, if there's any reference to gender, he or she is replaced with they. So even though it's just one person, that's the most safe identification to provide, especially when you're not sure. Say they. If you're not sure, you can ask. If you don't feel comfortable asking, you can use a they. You can share what your pronouns are and say, do you mind, my pronouns are, do you mind sharing yours? And everybody doesn't feel comfortable with that, so the safe is they, and it's hard saying it because it's different from what you're used to.
All right, last one. So this one, which option is more inclusive? There are so many homeless people in the city, and then there are so many people experiencing housing insecurity in the city. All right, okay, so yes, the second option would be more inclusive as it encompasses the body of the broader perspective of housing insecurity, people unhoused, that's another term that could be used, homeless people, kind of, what's the word I'm looking for? It's kind of demeaning, it's demeaning, and not only, bless you, not only kind of makes that person, feel even worse about their situation, but also doesn't encompass, a global issue, a big issue that happens all across the world. So, all right. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to turn it back over to Dr. Irvin.
Thank you, Amina. Are there any comments in the chat that we want to share? Do you see any, Tricia? Comments? I can see it on my watch, but I don't have my glasses. I think there are a few comments in the chat, but we'll get to those and share them. But in the meantime, as we reflect on the fun game, that was also a learning experience. Any comments? Anyone want to share? Have you experienced any of these? Did you think about something?
I think, oh, I have a microphone.
That's so the people online can hear.
Oh,
Yeah.
thank you. I think a few things came up for me, specifically is when we think about color. For a lot of years, again, as we talk about how we came up or growing up, we talked about melting pot, where again, kind of erased our identities and they weren't all fully welcome, or the goal was to make everybody assimilate. And so it's really exciting that we've moved beyond that into inclusive language that allows us to carry our identities and share them whenever we're in spaces. I think the second thing that I thought about, as this mentee really brought up for me, is language and how we use the word you guys in English, but in Spanish we use the word Latinos, which is male, for a long time. And so recently, probably within the last 10 years, there's been working towards more inclusive language. So you hear the word Latinx, which is an academic term for kind of being more inclusive. There's also Latine, there's also various different pronouns that folks use, and actually asking for what their preferences are. Also, shout out to Dr. Amy, who did the ally training and helping us understand to make sure to ask folks what their pronouns are before we just make assumptions as to what they want to be called, Thank you.
Anyone else? Share out.
First, I would like to say thank you for doing this. This is a way that it allows us all to have language and be a little bit more comfortable addressing people in a way that allows them to feel comfortable. One of the things that I always have a tricky problem with is figuring out how to identify individuals that are neurodivergent or with disabilities, physical impairments, because also in our society, these individuals have been shunned, and it's just as if people say, I don't see individuals with color. We were raised in a way in which we don't acknowledge the disability. So finding tools to be able to address those differences and allowing people to feel comfortable is of great importance. And this lends itself to coming up with a new space to figure out how to broach that subject. So thank you.
And I agree with her 100%. Here at JJC, over 20% of our student population falls into this category. And I adjunct taught for over 15 years, and we've always had neurodivergent disability, students with a disability in your class. And I think we can do better equipping our faculty and staff with how do we support them. So you'll be notified that they're in your class and they may need extra time or may need to take their tests in a testing center. But it's more than that. You need more than that to support them. And we're given the responsibility to support them without the tools. So I agree with you 100%. We can do more as we see more in our employees, students as well. And how do we support them? And we know we're supposed to support them. You know, it's a requirement that we do, but a lot of times we don't know how to, and we don't have the tools to do that. So I agree with you 100%. We do have this book that we read as a campus. This was really good, and it's such an easy read that will help you with some of that. So we have extra ones for you guys that did not get them to feel free to get anything up here when you leave. We have a book club, and Amina ran the book club. We're on our 8th book. We've read 8 books as a campus. That's amazing, and they're all on diversity. So we've had a total of over 400, am I right? 400 readers?
Over the last 3 years, yes.
Yeah, over 400 employees, either new or returning, have participated in these courageous conversations. And they've created relationships. Networking and bonding is one of our most popular diversity and awareness initiatives on campus. So feel free, and if we run out or there's a book that we've read that you want, let us know and we will get that for you. We're also open to coming into your classrooms, to come into your departments. I've done that in several departments, and we'll help facilitate whatever it is the needs are. Yes?
We do have someone in the chat asking, what's the book that was just shown about people with disabilities?
Demystifying Disabilities. And if they would like it, just drop in the chat and we'll get it to them.
Thank you.
Anyone else want to share out here? A few more comments.
Yep, I just want to acknowledge Professor Compton. She says that it also implies that another human's identity is responsible for your personal beliefs, but we are each responsible for our own beliefs. And then Laura and Galena both shared labels the person. So kind of talking to some of the examples with mentee, labeling the person and having to kind of carry that label. So thank you both.
Yes, thank you for our online listeners. We appreciate your comments. Thank you. Okay, let's move on. Where did I put the clicker?
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, psychological safety. We've all heard about this term, and it's basically saying that if in our departments, in our groups, in our family, in our relationships, we feel psychologically safe, what that means is you're not afraid to share your mistakes. You're not afraid to say when you screwed up. You throw out those great ideas, even though they're the quirkiest thing ever, like an airplane. Who thought of putting tons of steel in the air? Somebody did, and I guarantee you, when they came up with that idea, they were torn down. You can do that. That'll never work. Same thing with like flying an airplane, a car. The Ford, the Model T Ford. When Henry Ford started that car, so it was the Model T. The T represents the model. It started with A. And by the time it got to T, it was sellable, it was workable. But when he started with A, there's pictures of, it looks like this huge lawnmower that he had a seat on the back of. Going down the street, it was loud, it was smoking, it stopped. Every few minutes, he would get out with his tools and crank it. But before you knew it, it started evolving into more like a horse and buggy type thing, and it wasn't stopping anymore. And it was starting to go faster and faster. And then he created this body around it, and it became known as the Model T Ford. And it was something everyone sought to have. And it was designed to be for the middle class citizens as well. So when you have that psychological safety, you share, we become more inclusive, we grow, we become amazing because we hear from everyone. And you feel good having a voice. So even in your relationships, do you feel with your partner that you can share how you really feel today? Instead of saying, oh, I'm okay, you can say how you really feel. Do you feel psychologically safe to do that? If you screw up at work, we had this huge project that we did. This isn't a real one, I'm just using it to tell that your manager supported and invested a lot of money into. And we did not meet expectations. The people didn't come. It was a total failure. Do you feel safe going back to your manager, telling them that? That's what psychological safety feels like. In your group, in your department, do you feel safe sharing out things that's happened to you in your personal life or challenges on the job? That's psychological safety. So that's my team out on the terrace reading one of these books. And we have psychological safety. We feel like we support each other. We feel like we can share out. We feel like we can cry. And if you cry, you get in a group hug. And we just feel that sense of closeness. We feel like our crazy ideas can come out. Some of them are great, some of them are not so. So just recently, Dr. Namul had the cabinet do this design thinking project. So we both got 2 topics to do design thinking on. One of mine was K through 5. So we reached out to you guys, to employees, not all of you in here, but representatives of the campus, and said, give me your ideas. Dr. Namul's forward thinking, he's innovative, he wants to be the first to do things. So we were talking to an individual and she told us a lot of things and they were all okay, but it wasn't that thing, right? So I said, well, if Dr. Namul wants us to think outside of the box, and if money wasn't an issue, what would your ideas be? And man, did she have an idea that actually will move forward and will be funded, and you guys will hear more about that. But that's what happened when she had that sense of psychological safety. She started out, I know this is big, I know it's probably 5 years now, I know I just got here, but when she said that idea and the energy that she had with it, I was like, this is it, this is the one. So that's what you get out of people when they feel psychologically safe. The other picture is one of our ER group G groups, which also creates this space of psychological safety. How can you make your group or your department feel psychologically safe? Is establish expectations and norms on how you're going to treat each other, how you're going to respond and behave within that group. Encourage open communication. You can do that in a lot of ways. So when we have our team meeting, we start with a check-in. And the check-in is checking in on how you're doing, unrelated to work. Unrelated to work. And sometimes they're happy and sometimes they're not. And we just listen. So we know we have that space once a week to have that space. And we never hear about that stuff outside of our circle. So we know we have psychological safety. We're active listeners. Sometimes people just need room to speak, to be heard. I've had so many people come to me to share with something that was happening to them on campus that basically had them in tears, stomachs in knots. And I'm like, I will advocate for you. Do you want me to step in? Do you want me to help? So many times they have said no. It means so much that you're just listening to me. So sometimes they just want you to have that active listening. And support and appreciate your employees every opportunity you get. Celebrate your employees, celebrate your friends, celebrate your spouses, celebrate your significant other, your partner, your children, your community. And that helps create psychological safety. And these pictures are from the design thinking project when Dr. Namul had us with the string and the spaghetti. So sometimes it was perfect strangers in a group, and sometimes it was a department in a group, and they would say things and they were well received, like, you're making the top too heavy. We need to secure the bottom first. I'll do the taping. I'm an engineer. We should do it this way. And they were working together, trusting what the other person was saying. So this is a survey that was done in 2020, and it was almost 3,000 managers and over 13,000 employees. And basically what this chart shows is that those managers that rated high in having psychological safety, and there's some quizzes that you can give to your department. This is from the Harvard Business Review. If you rate high, 62% of your employees, your department will go the extra mile for you. They will do whatever is needed to support that department, to support their manager. And then a small 3% will have that quiet quitting. Now let me tell you what quiet quitting, and you guys have seen it. People just check out. They're physically there, but they don't contribute nothing at the meetings. They don't exceed expectation. They just come and do the bare minimum because they have blocked you out. They're there to get their check. You've seen it. That's what happens when you don't have psychological safety. So if you do, you have minimal of that. For those that don't, only 20% will actually go the extra mile, and you have 14% of quiet quitting. And this is from the Harvard Business Review, and they actually have questions that you can, just do with your department. I've done them with the departments before, and sometimes it's eye-opening. We all want this. We may have it, we may not, but we can get it. And these are the books, and I won't go through all of the statements up there, but we have 2, 3, 4 books up here. But I'll highlight 2. We did the Savvy Ally, and this one is good because it talked about terms, and we've talked about a lot of them here that are really good, and it's what you can use here on campus. You can use it in the community. You can use it with your family. You can use it with friends, and be inclusive. And it's simple stuff to learn. For example, we already talked about all gender. We also talked about they. Those are 2 real good ones that you will come across. Mailman, fireman, we grew up with this. Mailman, when you think of mailman, it used to be a man most of the time, but it's not anymore. And nor is it an inclusive term anymore. So we have to start rethinking how we identify these different careers. And it's just more, I won't read them all, but if you don't have these 2 books, I highly recommend picking them up. If we run out of them, we can get more. If you're online and you want it, drop it in the chat, and my department will make sure that you get a copy. And this one is on demystifying disabilities, another great one. It talks about this, say this and not this. So it encouraged you, instead of saying handicapped or special needs, instead say disability, disabled, a person with a disability, a disabled person. So it helps you with those terms. And you know, we're having more and more of our students come to campus and to the workplace. And like one of our employees said, we're not getting a lot of tools in that area. So this is a great book. These books were selected by our campuses. I didn't select them, the department did. We went out to our community and our employees select these books. And I would like to leave you with this quote. If you don't intentionally include, we unintentionally exclude. If you don't intentionally include, you unintentionally exclude. A lot of times it's intentional, and we have to keep working at it. The power of diversity thrives in a culture of inclusion, and we've been talking about that the entire time. So I'll let you guys take those words with you and reflect on those words. So we have a series of inclusive language. This was the first one, and we actually have 3 more coming up. You're able to pre-register right here, scanning this, or you can pick up one of these cards and take it with you and pre-register. The next one will be with our very own Brian Fruits and his acting class. And they are super excited to do this. And basically, through theatrics, they will act out different real life scenarios. And then there'll be laugh tracks afterwards to kind of soften it up. Then they'll do that scene again without the laugh track, and you'll see it really wasn't that funny without the laugh track. But it's visual, because we all learn different ways. So they're excited, they're preparing for that. So definitely try to come and see them. Then we'll have online, on-demand education on inclusive language that you can do whenever you're available. And then our third one will be more on diversity with Stan. He is an advocate for LGBTQ and a subject matter expert consultant in the field of diversity and inclusion. He did our training for our DEI stakeholders and leaders a couple years ago, and we're bringing him back. He's amazing. So those are the other ones that's coming up. We also have one today at 11, and I'll let Hector tell you a little bit about that.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. So at 11 o'clock, we're gonna have an actual production by the Catharsis Entertainment Group, and they're gonna use humor to actually, as Dr. Irvin been talking about this morning, on inclusiveness. You know, how to make our students feel more inclusive, our staff, our faculty, and for when I tell you what, it's a great production. This was recommended by Dr. Cuthbert Sims over at OSA. They've used this company many times for their program, so we highly encourage you all to come in if you have the time. It starts at 11. It is not going to be live stream, it's only in person. So we look forward to seeing you here.
Where?
Right here, at 11 o'clock.
Thank you, Hector. We have 26 people online, so thank you to our online. Woo, thank you. Thank you for all your comments. We'll get those books to you. Thank you, guys. We're here. If you have suggestions, ideas, questions, please email the DEI office or myself or any of my team. So give yourselves a hand. Thank you. Feel free to get books too.
All right, for attendance, everybody, if you can just scan that QR code with your fancy smartphones.
Thank you.
And fill out. Our keyword for this session is TEAL, T-E-A-L, TEAL. If you're having trouble scanning the screen right here, we also have a hard copy back here along with a hard copy of attendance sheet. We do prefer you fill it out online, but if you're having issues with your smartphone device or tablet, go ahead and fill this out with pen or pencil back here. Thank you very much.
Yes, and our 26 people online, if you have not dropped yet, please fill that out as well. It only takes a few seconds, and we redo education that is well received and is beneficial to our employees. So we always do an assessment afterwards. If it's really good, sometimes we take it out into the community as well. So your feedback is very valuable. And this is our first time doing this session.
Great job, Dr. Irvin, great job.
Thank you.